Hello and welcome to Chin Hairs and F-Bombs Conversations with Girlfriends. This is your Gal Pal Sal, aka SallyAnn Gray, and today I am here with my lovely friend Chelsea. Say hi.
Hi.
We are in the Lady Lounge, which I love. We get to be in the same room together to record this podcast about people pleasing. So that's our topic today. Chelsea and I both identify as people pleasers, which is not something I knew about you. Like, you had to say it out loud. I never would have guessed it.
Oh my God. Well, I try to play it cool, but
I mean, right? Me too. Yeah, and we'll talk about that too. So I'm going to introduce myself to our listeners in case they don't know me, but I am SallyAnn Gray. And I live in Maine. I have been here for 11 years now. I am originally from the Midwest, and I have a mister and two crazy kids who are out of the house today. That's why we have silence and peace. Yay. They are at sleepaway camp, and I am so pleased for them and for me. Chelsea, will you please tell us about yourself?
my name is Chelsea Ray. I live in Portland, Maine. I've been here for 20 years. I actually grew up in Maine, went to college in South Carolina. I live with my husband and my son, who is 15. I actually have two stepsons as well, who are grown and out of the house, but we are a super tight family. And I actually have a brand new granddaughter who I'm absolutely obsessed with. I work as a wardrobe consultant here in Portland, Maine, and do personal shopping and wardrobe organization.
And so actually, that's how you and I met.
Mm-hmm.
So my husband wanted to gift me with fashion help, which I accepted happily, right? It wasn't like I was like, oh my God, I need help fashion-wise. Like, I knew I needed help. So he found you. And actually, he found like a couple maybe in the Maine area, and then I got to choose, and I picked you.
Oh, thank you.
I
Because I think there really are only two of us.
Yeah, you're right. It was two. There were two people, and I picked you.
Oh, I really appreciate that.
Well, and I'm so glad because we worked together in that context professionally. I hired you, and I mean, I was looking at my outfit to see if I'm wearing anything I bought with you. Not at the moment, but I do look pretty cute.
You look super cute. Although I feel like I taught you well.
You did. I'm a good student.
You are an excellent student. Girl, you always look good.
Well, okay, but also whenever I see you, I turn it up a notch. I have to. I can't go out with my fashion friend and look like a slob.
Oh my God, I actually am very flattered by that. Thank you.
I feel silly. I know that I don't have to look any certain way for you to be with you, but I still do.
That's really sweet. I just enjoy getting dressed up. It's such a rarity. So when we go to our lunches, I'm like, yeah, let's look cute just for fun.
Exactly. I love looking cute, and we live in such a casual place.
Very casual.
Yeah. Portland, Maine, so casual that dressing up is odd.
Yeah.
And so I love a sense of occasion.
Yes.
So I love to be able to even just look cute, not necessarily dressed up,
right.
Just look cute.
Yeah.
Okay, so our origin story of friendship is I hired you, and then you hired me. I did your website.
Well, it was funny. You said to me, you said we were just talking, and you were like, it was a little harder to find you because you don't have a website. And I remember saying, it's just something I'm not totally sure how to do myself. You were like, wow. And I believe we traded services.
We did, yeah.
That was really smart. And
yeah.
I get compliments on my website all the time.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, you did a beautiful job.
Oh, thanks. Well, I was trying to build a portfolio at that time, and I was trying to decide if I could do that for a job on my own. And so I saw a good opportunity there, and yeah, we traded services. But then over the years, I mean, that was many years ago. That was that was 8 years ago.
I could have been more like 10.
So, but then over the years, we became friends, which I was so happy. It can be really hard to transition out of professional relationship into friendship because it's oh, does she like me as a client? Would she like me as a friend?
That's a really good point, because I remember you reaching out and being like, hey, want to go to lunch? And I was like, yes. Like, same thing, I don't want to breach that level of professionalism where I'm working with somebody and I'm secretly going, oh God, I wish I could be their friend.
Right, exactly. And like, do they even want to be friends with me?
Right.
And like, do they have enough friends that they don't need new friends? Like,
Oh, the overthinking.
yes. Well, and like getting a new friend is like dating.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
I'm really glad that we did that we became friends.
I know, me
out
too.
of those.
I thoroughly enjoyed my time with you.
Me too. We have such fun. So we love to go to lunch together,
Yes.
and we like to walk together too. Okay, so that's our love story. So now we're gonna talk about people pleasing. So, like I said earlier, I didn't know that you think of yourself as a people pleaser because you come across as so confident and self-assured, and also you're really assertive. Like when you want something, you have a goal in mind, you go for it. And so those qualities I don't associate with people pleasing necessarily, because people pleasing can seem like someone's a pushover, and you're not a pushover.
No, I'm not.
Right.
Yeah. No, I don't let anyone push me around.
I know, and I love that about you. You're an absolute badass. Like, oh my gosh, I want to be you when I grow up. Okay, so I was just surprised to learn that you think of yourself as a people pleaser, and I identify as a people pleaser too. And I think it's cute too how we've gotten to know each other over the years and learn more about each other. One time at lunch, she said, I'm like an onion, and every time we talk, you like peel away a new layer.
You are very much like an onion. And by the way, I got that from the movie Shrek.
Oh!
But yeah, it's a perfect, I mean, you really are like the person that I thought you were when I first met you, versus every single time we get together, I learn something new and extremely interesting about you. You're very interesting. You have lots of layers, and I really enjoy peeling them back every time we get together.
Aw, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Aw.
Well, I think I appreciate also that you feel comfortable enough allowing me to peel your layers.
Yeah, because that takes vulnerability. And you have to feel comfortable with someone to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I do feel really comfortable with you
thank
because you're not a judgmental person.
I try not to be.
No.
I think if you look inside and realize that you're not perfect, you can't expect anyone else to be either.
Yeah, truly. Yeah, my perfection, it only applies to myself,
Yes.
and not to others. But it is way too hard on myself.
Oh,
Yeah, I know. I'm working on it.
I think most women are.
Yeah, I think we have really high standards and expectations for ourselves. And I think it can be really, really detrimental because we give and give. And I don't think our expectations for receiving are big enough.
Oh, that's well said.
Yeah.
Very well said. That's very true. Because I've had days where I've said, I've been doing stuff for everybody else all day long, and I haven't gotten anything done for myself that I needed to. And,
Exactly.
I think I have a hard time asking for help too.
Yeah, I think women, we're very self-sufficient. We've been trained to be self-sufficient, and we are externally focused, like being caregivers and providing and giving and giving. And we don't take those breaks to think about what we need and want. And it is really to our detriment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, you cannot pour from an empty cup.
Oh, very true.
And I have gotten to an empty state
Yeah.
many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so why do you think you're a people pleaser? Or like, how do you think you became a people pleaser?
So this is kind of twofold.
Sure.
And I hope this doesn't get confusing. I want to start with saying that I'm actually an extremely sensitive person. So as a child, anytime I was made to feel other than wonderful, it hurt me deeply. And because I was so sensitive, I felt a lot. So, I was really tall and really skinny. People would call me giraffe, and everybody gets made fun of their way. But for some, it just would crush my soul. And feeling alone and sad, I never wanted anyone to feel that same sadness, pain, or anything. So I think that kind of is like the root of where it came from. It's not that I'm like an empath, but I don't want anyone else to feel that. So when I'm around people, I want to bring them up and I want them to feel joy and happiness. And I will lie to somebody to make them feel better because I just don't want them to feel pain, because I am so sensitive about pain, just internal pain,
Yeah.
And then there's also a total innate part of it where I have no control over it. I joke, I'm not super into signs or anything, but what I know about myself being a Libra, the Libra sign are scales, and our scales need to be balanced at all times. So I do seem assertive, but when I'm amongst a group of people or even one other person and we're trying to make a decision on something and I go with the flow because I don't want to tip my scales. I don't want to cause a ruckus. I don't want to cause a problem. I don't want there to be imbalance in my life. I thrive off of balance with those scales. So I think that I tend to be more of a people pleaser just to maintain my own balance in my life.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's funny that you said that you're not an empath, because you were talking, I'm like, oh, she's an empath. Like, why do you think you're not an empath?
I mean, I guess I don't know exactly how it's defined. I do feel like I can sit across the table from somebody and I can totally feel whether they're having a good day, bad day. Like, I'm extremely intuitive to other people's feelings. And I don't know if that's necessarily qualifying, but I feel people's energy and I feel their moods. And sometimes I feel like I take them on a little bit.
Absolutely.
Or I try to alleviate them, again,
Right.
to create that balance.
Right.
And just bring them joy to hopefully take away from that pain. It's so weird.
You're such a sweetie.
Ah,
I think you are an empath. Like, everything that you describe is that, and being a highly sensitive person as well is part of being an empath. That you can feel what other people feel, and we do often. I think I'm an empath. Take on some of those feelings, which is hard. It's hard on us. That's a psychic load that we're taking on that isn't even ours.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I have kind of two reasons that I think I am a people pleaser. And one comes out of growing up in a chaotic home. There was addiction and mental illness and financial instability in my home. And so it was in my best interest. It was safest for me to be convenient, to be easy, to be small. And so it was, how can I make everything go better for everyone else? My parents were really distracted because there was addiction and it was depression. And they also were running a failing business. And I spent a lot of time alone too. A lot of time alone. I was an only child until I was 9. And then my sister was born when I was 9. And then my parents were further distracted because they had an infant.
Yeah.
And she was a colicky baby and she took so much energy. And I didn't get a lot of attention. I spent a lot of time alone. And so when I did get attention, I craved it.
Yeah.
And when you don't feel unconditionally loved, because the love in my house felt very conditional. It was if I was being a good girl, I felt loved. That's when I got attention. And attention can feel like love.
Yeah.
It's a poor substitute, but it is a substitute.
Absolutely.
And when you're young and don't understand nuance, right? Like, attention feels like love.
Yeah.
And so people pleasing was my way of
Getting
being
attention.
safe
Yeah.
and getting attention.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's through many years of therapy.
Yeah.
How I'm like, oh, that's where this is from. That's what this is. And also, I didn't have any friends until I was 10 years old.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so I was desperate for friendship, for love, for attention. And so to get it, I wanted to keep it. And that is part of people pleasing.
Yeah, that
right?
makes sense.
Right?
Absolutely.
That I finally get a friend at 10 and she wasn't a good friend. I know that now, but I didn't have a friend before. And so I didn't know what was okay to treat me and what friendship was like. And so I would just get along to go along.
Wow.
And that was not good for me.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy because a lot of us form relationships, friendships when we're very young. And especially your parents teach you how to love and how to give love and receive love. And it sounds like you were getting healthy love in the way that you needed. And so you sought it in another way that was unhealthy.
Yeah.
That sounds like a very common story amongst a lot of people that in one way or another.
Yeah.
Sorry, Linda.
Oh, thanks. I think the people our age that were like raised in the 80s and the 90s, like our parents, they weren't showing us a lot of attention. Like, I mean, was that your experience? I know your childhood home was way different than that.
I was raised with a ton of love, but I was also raised by two working parents who I was a latchkey kid.
I was a latchkey kid too.
Absolutely. I mean, I was gone to school, but by the time my parents got up, we'd have dinner at night together, which was always lovely. But I remember being on my own a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. At a very young age, too. Starting at 4 or 5 years old, because I had an older sister who was 3 years older. So as long as we were home and I knew we were safe, we were home all day in the summer times all by ourselves.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right. So we touched on this a little bit, but how do you feel about being a people pleaser? Like, I have shame about it.
It's probably the one thing that I have tried the most to change about myself. I actually don't like it. Like I said, I love that you didn't realize this about me because I do kind of fake it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I overthink. I feel too much. And so we had this conversation, but I have made attempts to try to do better and be better. And my husband, he just doesn't give any fucks. Like, 0 fucks given about anything. He parks where he wants. He eats what he wants. He says what he wants. And he doesn't care at all about how it makes people feel or how it's going to affect anybody. Like, he's the absolute opposite of me. And so I've been trying to take notes. I don't know if I would like to be as extreme as he is. He's a bit on the extreme side.
Like split the diff.
Yeah, exactly. But I do try to be, but it's fake. It's not real. It's not truly who I am. Deep inside, I am a people pleaser.
Yeah.
I am sensitive and I try, but
Yeah.
I've been unsuccessful. On the outside, I look the part, but on the inside, I'm a hot mess.
No, you're not. And so, like, okay, I agree. Like, I get it. I don't like to admit that I'm a people pleaser. And I'm trying to tell myself, like, this is not a personality flaw. The fact that I want other people to be happy is not a flaw.
Do you truly believe that? Or do you just tell yourself that?
Well, right. So, okay. I know that we're supposed to not care what other people think.
Right.
Theoretically. Right?
Correct.
I cannot stop that.
Me too.
Right?
Yes.
And so that's not a bad thing about myself. I'm a kind person, and that is a good thing, not a bad thing.
Yes.
The whole giving too many fucks thing, I can't change it either. I mean, I've tried, and it's not that I care what everyone thinks about me, but I care deeply about what certain people think about me, right? And, okay, historically, like in prehistoric times, belonging was part of our survival mechanism. And so for humans to stay at the top of the food chain, we had to band together. And we made community as well. And if you were like kicked out of the tribe, you would die. You would get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger.
Right.
Right? And that's coded in us. Like, we have not evolved past that belonging need. We never will. Like, that's who humans are. Connection. And connection is really, really important to me. And so I struggle with that, like being like ashamed of being a people pleaser, but also feeling like, why should I be ashamed of this?
So I have a friend, and this is very interesting. I guess maybe I shouldn't have taken her word so closely, because she said to me, I was explaining a situation where I was feeling sad about something. It was an interaction that had happened, and I couldn't stop overthinking it and obsessing over it. And she said, Chelsea, she's like, that person doesn't care. She's like, they don't care. She goes, this is more about you thinking about yourself. She was kind of accusing me of being selfish because I was overthinking a relationship or a scenario that I had had in a relationship. And I was like, oh God, you're right. I am just thinking about myself. And so I think that is where my guilt of my overthinking and people pleasing stems from. But right now, having a little bit of a breakthrough. Maybe it's not a flaw. Maybe
it is a flaw.
It's just me.
I think you're a sweetheart.
Thank you.
I think, especially when you talk about how you became to be a people pleaser, was like trying to make people comfortable and trying to take away discomfort from other people. There's nothing wrong with that. That's very sweet and kind.
Thank you.
So let's talk about self-help books, because that's right. Okay, we've talked about self-help books before. I've read a ton, and I find it so obnoxious that almost every self-help book is just like, hey, just stop doing that. Right?
That's exactly it. I literally read a book from cover to cover called How to Not Give a Fuck. Something like that. Something very similar. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to make me change.
This will do it.
I am going to be able to change my psyche. I'm going to be able to change who I am. I read every single word cover to cover in that book. And I was like, well, I get it. Right. But it didn't change me. Like, I totally get I understand psychology. I understand exactly what they're saying. But innately inside of me, it's just, I can't change who I am. And so I don't know if I should.
There you go. I have a theory about the self-help books. They're trying to logic us out of it. They're just trying to talk us out of it.
That's exactly right.
It's like saying to someone who's stressed out, it's like saying to someone, don't worry. Fuck you. You can't just tell me that. And I go, okay.
Yeah.
That's not how this works.
Yes.
You can't someone's having a panic attack and you say, calm down. Trip over a knife. That's not helpful.
It actually kind of sets me in the other direction.
Same. So same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think they're trying to have us change a behavior, but they're not getting at the root cause.
Very well said.
And so to me, I think the root for me is about of my people pleasing is about connection, and it's a fear of rejection.
Yeah.
So you can't logic me out of a fear of rejection.
Right.
That is my lizard brain. Yeah. That's my amygdala.
Yeah.
That is hard-coded in me.
Yeah.
You can't just tell me this fact of actually no one's thinking about you as much as you think about you.
Right.
I know that's true.
Yeah.
So what? I can't stop being the person that I am.
Yeah.
And I also think like Western medicine has this problem of treating symptoms instead of the cause.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole.
Yeah.
And so we're just like treating symptoms after symptom after symptom and just like taking more medications and getting more side effects instead of treating the root cause, which is causing those symptoms.
Absolutely.
And I feel the same way about this like self-help books. And you can't just tell me to change a behavior because it makes sense and there's logic to it. There's something deeper here.
Oh, well, you're making me feel a lot better. Thanks.
I'm making me feel better too.
I just thought I was being selfish.
You're not being selfish. I understand what your friend is saying.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that yes, that may have been a blip on the other person's radar. And then they just went on with their life.
Right.
And they were like, Chelsea's a great person and I'm not mad at her.
Right.
And moved on. And you, on the other hand, started overthinking and like ruminating.
Losing multiple hours of sleep.
Yes.
Recreating the scenario in my head.
Yes. And I've done it too because I have had times when someone has done something to me that they think nothing of, and that hurts me to my core, and that I have taken way more seriously than I should. And I worry that has happened to other people because of something that I have done offhanded or stupid.
Talk about a vicious cycle of overthinking, right?
Yes. They'll let me read another self-help book about how not to overthink.
Right.
I can't fucking stop that one
Yes,
either.
no. No. That is hilarious.
Oh my God. Okay. So yeah, self-help books are stupid.
Yes, I'm done with them. Someone asked if they could borrow it, and I was like, here, you can have it.
And then burn it.
I was just going to say, I was going to burn it, but you can have it if you want. If you truly think this is going to help you.
I mean, I hope it does. Like, good luck to you. But yeah, I haven't bought a self-help book in forever.
Yeah.
That
was the last one I read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will read like personal development books.
Ooh.
That's like kind of my other word for self-help books.
Yeah.
But like personal development, I can get behind. Telling me to stop being who I am, I cannot get behind.
Yeah. No. I think we're at the age where you finally know who you are.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with it.
Work with what you got.
Exactly.
Yeah. Lean into your strengths. I'm trying to stay in my lane.
Yes, I love that.
Right?
I love
so
that.
the things that I'm really good at, I'm going to do those things. I'm going to do the hell out of those things. And the things that aren't my strongest qualities, honestly, I outsource them.
Yeah.
I outsource them to my husband a lot,
smart.
but like I'll outsource them to a professional, a friend, like fucking whatever, you know? I'm trying to stay in my lane.
I love that. I'm trying to stay in my lane in that I tend to, I don't know, like I'm walking down the street and this kid kept pushing the cross button, but he wasn't crossing. So it was like a line of crossing buttons and he kept pushing. And I was like 5 seconds from yelling at this kid, like, because he's stopping traffic for no reason. He's just walking down the sidewalk, being a little dick, hitting the little crosswalk buttons. And normally I would have been like, hey, kid, stop doing that. You're like stopping all the traffic. You're really messing things up. I was like, Chelsea, just stay in your lane. I put my nose to the grind and I got my walk on and didn't say a thing because it's not my business. And
Right.
he was just being a little dick and I'm not his mom. So
Yeah.
stay in my lane.
Something I say to myself occasionally is I can't save everyone.
Yes. Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
I can't save almost anyone.
Yeah. Barely can save
but-
myself.
Right. But I definitely can't save strangers. So just like, bye.
Yeah.
Just get it out of my brain.
It does give me some inner peace to stay in my lane.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to talk about how people pleasing has impacted your life. I'll start. I mean, I feel like people have taken advantage of me. And that's another reason why I have hidden my people pleasing, like that I don't want people to know that I'm a people pleaser because I'm terrified of being taken advantage of. Because I have been by friends, by boys, and by bosses. The last boss I had definitely took advantage of me. And I think I was looking so much for validation and affirmation from him. And I wanted to know that I was doing a good job. And he just treated me like a robot and was getting this output of work from me, but didn't care at what cost. And I was working so hard. I was giving 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And I burnt out hard and fast. And I feel like he took advantage of that. Never was interested to check in and be like, how are you doing? This guy didn't know fucking anything about me, to be honest. Like, nothing. He asked about my husband one time.
Jeez.
And then in that conversation laughed at my husband's hobbies.
What?
He's just not an emotionally intelligent person.
Yeah,
He's
no.
just like, oh my God. Wasn't the right boss for me.
Yeah.
But I feel like I was taken advantage of there because of some kind of people pleasing stuff. And like with boys, definitely like boyfriends that would just walk all over me, would manipulate me. And friends too, when I was trying to learn how to be a friend and have a friend, people took advantage of me.
Yeah. That actually, you saying this makes me realize that for a very, very long time, a lot of people to take advantage of me as well.
Really?
Absolutely. And it's funny, my zero fucks husband was the one, when he first met me, he pinpointed relationships where he saw imbalance.
Cool.
He was like, Chelsea, you know how like in a relationship, there's give, there's take, there's got to be balance. Otherwise, it's like a boyfriend that doesn't like his girlfriend as much as his girlfriend is obsessed with him.
Yeah.
There's this imbalance, this power struggle,
Right.
and she just keeps clinging on more and more. I was kind of that girl, not with men as much as friends and acquaintances. I wanted to be part of their life. For example, my son going to a private school, there was a lot of transportation issues where some parents just, I thought that they were busier than I was, and was constantly driving other people's children around without that task being reciprocated. And it took my husband to be like, hello, they're taking advantage of you, Chelsea. And I didn't even see it because I'm such a darn people pleaser. I was allowing people an imbalance in friendships where my friends who I thought just didn't have, not that I have a lot of money, but weren't as financially as fortunate as I was. And I would always pay for dinners and lunches and drinks. I was always paying for everything. But in reality, they were perfectly capable of paying for their own things. I don't know. I was being taken advantage of again. So yeah, no, I luckily now have my husband to point out sometimes when things aren't quite right. And he's like, you either say no or you demand the 50% back.
Right.
You got to demand that respect back. And if you don't, then that relationship isn't working.
I totally agree. And I had to learn that hard.
Yeah.
You know, I've had some friendship breakups because of the inequity in the relationship, that the give and the give and the give without any receiving. And I love that your husband is offering that outside perspective because it can be so hard to see it when you're in it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I love that he is showing you that, shining a light on something that's true and allowing you to see that.
It's been pretty powerful, actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I'm now getting better at seeing it myself.
Yeah.
I was able to sever the carpool relationship.
Good.
This one mom, I would pick her kid up and bring him to basketball every single day, but they just never offered to give him a ride back. And I finally said, I'm so sorry. I just can't do this anymore.
Good for you.
Yeah, I just had to. And I told her exactly why. I was like, I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. I go, you are not busier or more important than I am. And unless you're willing to reciprocate the rides where we do 50-50, I'm just not going to be able to do this anymore.
You are such a badass.
Yeah.
Okay, so most people would not have, I call that a hard conversation.
Yeah, oh, it was.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And most people would avoid the hard conversation and do a different, more passive way. And so that's one of the ways that I think you're such a badass is to have that conversation because that is so real. And so tell me exactly what she replied with.
Well, and I might have been a little, so I call it a bitch snapped, right? Like,
Nice.
I had just woke up one day. It was like she had called me. They were they were on the same basketball team, and her son had joined like a second team, and my son wasn't playing. And she called and said, "Hey, can you take so and so to the practice?" And I go, "Oh, Mikey's not playing in that league." But she asked me if I could still take her son.
Wow.
And that was my snapping point. So I honestly am not normally so forward, but she snapped a bitch and I just let her have it. I just said, hey. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. She goes, I didn't realize I was inconveniencing you so much. I'm like, it's not that. It's so much as that you just don't reciprocate the favors. I'm like, it's becoming too much. You're taking advantage of me. And she was like, I'm sorry. And that was it. I mean,
Wow.
yeah, but the balls to ask me to take her son to a practice that my son's not even going to, that's just bonkers to me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, we lived like a mile apart. It wasn't like he was like on my block or something. Like I had to go get him and bring him home and back.
Wow.
I know.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, I'm proud of myself. I was pretty proud of myself. When I told Joe, he was like, yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. Of course. Oh my gosh. Yeah. A phrase that a friend of mine gave me and I've used a time or two for that sort of conversation is, I'm no longer available for XYZ.
Yeah.
And that's, you said that. You're like, unless you reciprocate, unless you pick up your slack, I'm no longer available to drive your kid around.
Yep.
And I used that in a breakup conversation with a friend a few years back. She wasn't reciprocating in the friendship. Mm-hmm. And I said, I am no longer available for this friendship. And it was so hard for me to say. And it was so exactly what I needed to say.
That's interesting because you don't hear about like friends breaking up all that much.
Oh my gosh. It's hard to do.
It is.
It is not the easiest road.
It is. It's very interesting how different people in our lives fulfill different needs. Because I'm like literally thinking in my head, oh, I have this friend that I call for this need and this friend for this need. And yeah, some of them I can be a little more open with.
Yeah.
So you make sure you keep the little cap on it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Certain friends that you're like, you know what? This part of me isn't safe with that person.
Yeah.
There's this friend of mine that we've been different levels of friendship over the years, like closer, less close, more time together, less time together. And I just realized that where we are right now in our friendship, I don't feel safe sharing certain things with her about myself. I can't get too deep with her.
Yeah.
I don't trust that she'll keep my confidences. I don't trust that she won't judge me. That's the biggest one. Yeah. And so I'm like, it took me some trial and error to figure out where to put that friendship. That I could still have a friendship with her and just remain safe.
Right.
But not have to push her all the way away.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Have there been times when you've said yes when you should have said no?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And yes. Absolutely. I am a yes person. And actually, that's one of my new things is I'm learning to say no. And it feels really fucking good.
Yes. Doesn't it?
It feels very powerful. I'm recognizing things that I don't want to do but felt obligated to. Obviously, there are things like I didn't want to go to the grocery store this morning, but I gotta get the food, gotta feed the family. Like there are things in life,
right?
But I used to think that I had to attend every single event I was invited to because if I didn't, I wouldn't be invited again. Or the school functions, the volunteering, all of that. I overdid everything because I thought that someone else cared. I thought someone else cared that I wasn't there. So I was always there. And after 10 years of my son being at the same school, I learned that I said no a couple times and they just filled the spot with somebody else. Or I didn't go to this one meeting and they ended up releasing all the notes and I didn't need to be there anyway. I was doing all these things that I didn't want to do because I thought somebody else was expecting me to be there. But they don't care. Nobody cares.
Right.
Nope, I'm busy.
Isn't that a great lesson to learn? So like you said no and then you found out, oh, I had told myself a story about why I should be there or need to be there. And it's not true. And oh my God, what a relief. Now I don't have to do all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of liberating.
It is.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Okay.
I'm on the no train.
I love the no train. Okay. So a few years ago, I don't know what happened, how this came to my awareness about myself, but I realized that I was saying to yes, no questions, I was saying, okay, fine, or sure to everything.
Right.
You know what those aren't? Yes.
Yeah. If that's the way you feel, it should be just probably a no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I realized I was saying those words over and over. Sure, fine, okay. Instead of actually asking myself if I wanted to do a thing. And that those sure, fine, okays were actually no's. And so I have been forcing myself to not say those words. I have a red flag on it now. If I hear those 3 words, sure, fine, okay, I stop and I say, wait a minute, is this a full body yes? Or is this a no? And everything doesn't have to be a full body yes. Like you said, the grocery store is just, you fucking have to go.
Yeah.
But what I had been doing, similar to you, I also was saying yes to everything. And I don't know why I was saying yes to everything. Like, I like being a part of things. I like helping. I'm an extrovert. Like, there's a lot of reasons why I say yes. Okay, here's another reason why I say yes or did. FOMO.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. I don't want to miss out on something cool.
Yeah. So you say yes to 3 parties in one day
Yes.
because you're like, oh my God, I have to be at all
Yes.
of these. But in reality, it's totally going to tear your body apart.
Right. And you're going to have half a conversation with like 15 people and blah, blah, blah. So I said yes over and over to my detriment. And I got burnt out. I got burnt out at home with caregiver burnout, taking care of my whole family and being an overachiever and doing a lot of things for and with the school and just yes in so many things. And I think I was also being agreeable,
Yes.
right?
You were people pleasing.
Yeah, I was people pleasing.
I know. I feel like I was the first person on the volunteer basis at school. They just would call me when they had a slot that they couldn't fill. At first, I felt like it was a compliment that they were considering me, that they needed me. I felt special. But what I really realized was that I was always saying yes.
Right.
And so they knew they could rely on me.
Right. They knew they could rely on you. And in some ways, like, were they taking advantage of you?
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So the thing about yes and no, I burned out. Okay. I burned out from a bunch of things, the caregiving, the work. I burned out. And to heal, I had to decimate my calendar because I was so overwhelmed. I was so anxious.
Overscheduled, probably.
I was overscheduled and I was overstimulated and I was over everything.
Yeah.
I was over.
Yeah.
I was over it.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And so I had to say no. And I stopped doing a bunch of things because I was broken.
Yeah.
And then I learned how beautiful an open calendar is. And in that space where I was healing from burnout, I had the time to reflect. And I saw that when I would get an invitation or an ask, that the first thing I would do is I would consult my calendar to see if I could do it. And then I would answer yes or no. And I was like, record scratch.
Yeah.
The first thing I should do is ask myself if I want to do it.
Right.
And I was like, oh shit, dude.
Yeah.
And the things that I'm trying to teach my kids are like, if a friend asks you to hang out, do you want to hang out with them?
Right.
That's the first thing. And I wasn't, the things I was trying to teach my kids, I wasn't doing for myself.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so I was like, okay.
A little bit of a mixed message there.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I'm not leading by my values in that way, right? I'm not modeling the things that I want for them. And maybe that's how I was able to identify this disconnect. And so I had to flip it on its head that when I get asks now, that the first thing that I do is I ask myself if I want to do it. And that is taking a lot of practice.
Yeah.
It's taking a lot of practice to figure out what I do want and what I do need as well. Both are, to me, equally important. You talk about those scales.
Yeah.
Like, what I want is as important as what I need. And I have learned I need downtime.
Yes.
And I wasn't allowing for downtime. And downtime can be a lot of different things. And a type of downtime that I need is quiet, alone downtime.
Yes, girl. As I get older, I appreciate being alone more and more. It's so interesting. If you think about it, when we're in like elementary school, your group of friends is usually large, and then you get into high school, it shrinks a little. You go to college, it will maybe shrinks a little more as you become an adult. You get pulled in so many directions. You end up having tight friends. But yeah, the connection's very interesting and making time for other people. But hopefully I won't die alone. But alone and single because all my people have left me.
Right.
But it's just having some quiet and alone time. I mean, I just think I'm hilarious when I'm by myself.
Oh my gosh. I think I'm hilarious too. My daughter makes fun of me because I'm laughing at my own jokes. And I'm like, well, I think I'm funny and I'm a great audience for myself. I'm like, if I can't make myself laugh, like, what am I doing?
Seriously.
Well, and you know that I go on solo trips every year.
I thought that was the funniest thing when you went on your first one. Yeah. You were like, I'm going out into the woods all by myself with nothing. Like, you had no technology, right? Like nothing.
Yeah, it was off the grid. There's not even no Wi-Fi. There's no electricity.
Yeah, so that was the part that scared me.
I know.
Personally, I would love to go on like a fabulous vacation all by myself, but it would be like at the Four Seasons, and I would be spending half of it in the spa.
I remember that conversation so well because you were totally like, your alone getaway from it all. Fuck these people, which is where I was coming from. Yeah. Vacation would be in a plush hotel. And I was doing like the exact opposite. Yes. Because I was like kind of roughing it. I was roughing it. But disconnecting from technology was a big part of why I do that rustic getaway. And that has its own benefits too.
Oh, absolutely. But talking about a little bit of FOMO.
Yeah.
Do you get it when you do those retreats? You don't?
I get no FOMO while I'm gone. And I've missed a lot of things when I go. Because I go every year. I go once or twice a year for a weekend or a long weekend. And I've missed parties and I don't regret it.
Good.
Because I enjoy it so much. Yeah. And yeah, I just need it. I'm glad I started doing that for myself and I love it.
Instead of pleasing others, you're people pleasing yourself.
So that's one of the glorious things about that weekend is I get to do whatever I want with my time. I can sleep as long as I want. I can eat what I want. I can listen to what I want. I'm doing no people pleasing. I'm doing exactly what I want for the whole weekend.
Which I feel like in some people's lives, they've gone through their entire lives and never been able to actually do that.
Yeah.
To actually just please yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So the last thing I wanted to talk about around people pleasing was, have you, as you've gotten wiser, made changes in your life because of people pleasing?
I mean, of course. Yes. I'm trying to make the adjustments of doing it less. Trying to be more mindful about pleasing myself. Yeah. To be honest, I've gotten to the point of self-acceptance. I know who I am. I know how I am. I've kind of come to peace with it. Yes, I do want to be a little more like my zero fucks husband. Yeah. Just because it seems like such a cool lifestyle.
It does sound fun.
But I don't think I'm ever going to ultimately change. I think I am who I am. And I think that really developmentally where I've progressed the most is self-acceptance.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So I think that's the gift of 40s is that feeling comfortable in who you are. It's like you've figured it out. I know there's more I'm going to learn about myself, which frankly I find kind of annoying because I spend a lot of time with myself. Yeah. And the fact that there are still things I'm like learning about myself, I sometimes find that annoying. But it is like an acceptance of who you are and like, no, I'm not going to change. There are certain things about me that is just, this is who I am and I like who I am. Like no more of the shaming myself about certain things about myself. It's like, no, this makes me who I am and who I am is pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, thanks. I think for me, I have just added better boundaries. You know, I've gotten older. I've been through a lot of therapy, and I have learned about boundaries, and I've learned what mine are for me. And that has been trial and error, right? People have pushed my boundaries that I didn't know I had. And then I was like, okay, well, that doesn't fucking work for me.
Right.
And so that's, I think boundaries is like the biggest way that I've tried to adjust to the people pleasing that I know I can't get away from, but I don't want to be taken advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was trying to say this before. So now when I get an ask, I first consult, do I want to do this? And then I look at the calendar, which it was just not that order before.
Right.
But I look at the calendar differently than I used to. It's not a matter of, do I have an open slot?
Right.
I'm also gauging my energy because of that whole, I know that I need margins in my life. I know I need downtime. I know I need some alone time and recovery time.
Yeah.
And so I am getting better at adding that into my response of an ask of my time and energy.
So smart. I too need like time in between. We're so overscheduled.
Yes, so overscheduled.
So overscheduled.
Yeah.
And that has been a very powerful thing for me where I will give myself even just one day a week where I can get things done that I don't just need to do, but I want to do. And just carving out that time. And it's funny, I used to think, well, someone else is going to know that I'm, they would ask me to do something and I would be like, oh, that's my one day where I get all my things done that I wanted to do. And again, learning to say no. They don't know my schedule.
Right.
They don't know, and I know it, and I know I need that day. I need that day for my mental health, my emotional well-being. I need that day, and I'm more accomplished when I get all those things done, and I don't have that dark cloud over my head looming, knowing that I didn't get done what I needed to do.
That's really smart. I should take a page out of your playbook on that one with the day.
Not everybody has the luxury of having a day, and I don't always get my day.
Right.
Sometimes it's a half day, but I really try to carve out at least a half day to a day to just have a Chelsea day.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the summer.
Yeah.
And being able to do that more with my time than I was during the school year for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So saying no is a full sentence, right? And so that was something when I first was like learning how to say no, is I would over explain.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Because you think
they
you
have to. You think they care.
You think
you need to have an excuse or a reason to say no.
Yeah.
And the truth is you don't fucking owe anybody an explanation.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So if you have this one day that's for yourself, you don't have to say, oh, well, I would love to, but, oh, I have this day that I have all these plans to do. And I guess I could move them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, because you're pleasing the other person.
And you're like, oh, you're busier than me. And so blah, blah. Mm-mm. You just say no.
Yes.
So I have learned to not over explain myself. That nobody is entitled to all of that information.
Absolutely.
And frankly, they just don't care.
They usually don't get. That was another thing. I felt like I owed them an explanation. Half the time, I just made it up because it wasn't true, because I just wanted to say no, but didn't know how. So I would come up with some ridiculous excuse that was a half truth.
Yeah.
And now I just, I don't feel it's necessary. I've actually gotten responses from people, like coaches, where I'm just like, Mike's exhausted last night. He did da 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 da. And what it really came down to, the coach was like, cool, get rest. Like, he didn't care. He didn't need the explanation. He's busy.
Right.
He's carpooling with 6 kids.
Right.
He's like, whatever. You're not going to be there. That's fine. I didn't need all that.
Right.
And after a few of those responses, I finally realized, okay, just saying, we won't be there.
Yep.
That's perfect.
I love it.
Yeah.
I know.
And,
Keep it simple.
99% of the time, no one comes back and says why.
No.
They don't care.
Right.
They're like, perfect. RSVP, no.
And they move on to the next thing because we're also goddamn busy. And your no is acceptable.
Yeah.
The end. Hard stop. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. I wasn't taught how to say no. I was taught to say yes.
Yeah. I think
as a kid.
a lot of women, especially, were supposed to be agreeable. And,
Good girls, nice girls. Yeah. I was just taught to make do with what I had and just go with it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have a choice. And so learning how to say no is a skill that I had to pick up.
Yeah. Only took 47 years.
Seriously.
I'm still working on it.
Me too. I mean, all of this is a work in progress for sure. We did it. Those are the things I wanted to talk about. Yay, we did it. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for sharing about people pleasing.
Yes.
Honestly, I was nervous to talk about this because of that shame thing.
Yeah.
I like to admit to strangers and people I know that I'm a people pleaser. Like I felt naked admitting a thing like this, but I also am trying to not feel shame about this. Like it doesn't make me a bad or weak person.
Right.
Like that is just not true.
Yeah.
So thank you for talking to me about this.
Yeah, I had a good time.
Yay. I would love to wrap this up with a joy share.
Yay.
So if you could please share one thing that is bringing you joy right now.
So I mentioned it at the beginning a little, but I have 3 boys, plus a husband, plus 2 male cats. I am surrounded with male energy constantly. And I was recently blessed with a beautiful baby girl, and I'm totally obsessed with her. She brings me the most joy. She's just started doing big smiles, those big gummy smiles. Yeah. And it just, I want to cry because of the amount of joy that she brings me. She is the most beautiful human in the world, and it's really nice to have some feminine energy around.
Right. Oh, I love that. How old is she now?
She's 2.5 months. They do weeks, I guess, 10, 11 weeks.
I can't do weeks. I did that when I had little ones, and I can't do weeks any longer. Like, how many weeks old am I? 4,732 weeks old.
It'd be weird if that was right.
It definitely isn't. Cool. Okay. My joy share is that my band has a gig.
Stop.
Yeah.
When?
It is July 13th. Okay. So a friend of mine is turning 50 and she's having a birthday party and she requested our band.
Oh, is this party outdoors?
No. Oh, and it's not public either.
I was just going to say I was going to totally park a block away and just listen.
So I'm really excited about this gig, and so it's been really fun rehearsing and singing. And my big joy is that I'm singing lead vocals on 2 of the songs.
Wow! Can you share what the songs are?
Yeah, one is "Trouble" by Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And the other is Miracle Mile by Cold War Kids.
Okay. I don't know if I'm familiar with that one, but
it's a really fun song. They're both really fun songs.
That's so cool.
So you see my microphone is out and I've been rehearsing at home and singing loud and often.
Wow. Congratulations. It's really cool.
I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited. So this is only our 2nd gig.
Yeah.
It's going to be really fun, and it's going to be in a room full of people that I know. And so I hope it feels really, supportive, and I don't get as much stage fright as I get stage fright.
You do?
Very much.
Because you've done some really brave things.
I have done a lot of brave things in my life. Yeah.
Like stand-up comedy, man, that's tough.
Yeah, I know. I've done a lot of things on stage in front of people. I have sung in 4 weddings, 3 funerals. I've done stand-up comedy. I've done improv. I've done a lot of things on a stage, and it scares the shit out of me.
But you keep doing it.
I keep doing it. I know.
That's amazing.
Kind of weird.
Yeah, most people avoid things that make them uncomfortable. You just kind of jump head first.
Yeah.
I love it.
I do hard things.
Yeah, that's really brave.
Thanks. So I hope it is really fun. And that's something I reminded myself at the first gig. I wrote it on my hand, actually. I wrote the word perfect and I crossed it out. Perfect. And then I wrote the word fun to remind myself that it was supposed to be fun. Yeah. It wasn't about being perfect, and it was about the experience.
That's awesome. Great reminder.
Yeah, I will probably do it again.
Yeah. I feel like you could just tattoo it.
I know, right?
At this point.
I know. I have many ideas about tattoos, but we shall see. Okay, well, Chelsea, thank you so much for being on my
Thank you so much. It
podcast.
was lots of fun. I really appreciate you having me.
Yay. I always knew you were going to be on the podcast, and thanks for, there are many topics we could talk about, but thank you for talking about people pleasing with
Well,
me.
it's interesting because I don't think I've ever talked about it with anybody before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Breakthrough.
Yeah, for real. Talk about brave.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you to my listeners that made it this far. Thank you for joining me today. And thank you for listening to this podcast. Hopefully other episodes you've listened to as well. And I have an ask for you. I would love for you to share this podcast with a friend. So if there's an episode that you listened to that meant something to you or made you think of a person in your life, I would super love it if you shared it with them and help this podcast get to more ears. So that's my ask of you today. And again, thank you to Chelsea for being here. And thank you to my listeners. And this has been Chin Hairs and F-Bombs, Conversations with Girlfriends. Thank you.